An article I read recently titled Eroding Fed Credibility Could Be Gold's Next Catalyst was with reference to President Trump wanting the Fed to decrease interest rates. As I see it, that's just kicking the can further down the road. It's just QE all over again. It's my opinion that it is the uncontrollable debt levels that will give gold the next push upwards. Why can't these analysts see or understand the debt picture, or can they and just don't want to report it? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, there's sort of yes and no to that.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't sound very helpful, but I mean, you have to bear in mind that all economic education has been Keynesian based, if you like. That the government has a role in stimulating the economy, et cetera, and that gold is no longer part of the monetary system. I mean, that's all ingrained in their brains. So that, I think, is one problem. I think the other side of the problem is that, people are beginning to understand the fallacies and all that, but they haven't yet grasped the whole picture, as to really what the legal relationship as well, since Roman times, between gold without counterparty risk and credit. I mean, I've even had some pretty significant economists telling me that the dollar is money and it's not credit. Yeah. It's wrong to say it's credit. But I mean, in fact, in law, that is completely incorrect. And practicably, it is also completely incorrect. So there is, if you like, an education progress, which, I'm working on. And now I'm working with Egon von Gratz, who's got exactly the same motive in mind to, spread an understanding in the hope that enough people will, if you're looking at the top, enough people will realize that if they continue on down their current course, then this is going to be just a total disaster for their own economy and businesses and all the rest of it. And for ordinary people who, shouldn't be trying to, pursue even greater wealth by buying stocks, and all the rest of it, but should understand that it's now a question of wealth preservation and try and educate them how to preserve that wealth. But, if you're looking at, the establishment, I think it's the mal-education, if I can coin a phrase, of macroeconomic theory, which isn't theory at all. I mean, Keynes in 1936 with this general theory, which was the foundation, if you like, of macroeconomics. Threw out Say's law. He threw out some pretty basic, if you like, economic concepts, which had been proved to be correct through classical theory. And having thrown that out, replaced it with a socializing thing. Now, anyone who's got the patience to get through his general theory will see that his final conclusion was to destroy the saver completely, and for the government to provide the capital for the entrepreneur who would do it because of his love of doing things. Yeah, what? I mean, the whole. This is the man revered as the foundation of modern macroeconomics. I mean, he was actually very socialistic and very clever, but not an economist. And as Hayek said, who was a good friend of Keynes, even though he completely disagreed with him, he said that Keynes was not an economist; he was a mathematician. And I think that explains everything. And of course, governments love the idea that they can actually go out and do things. I mean, every politician who I've come across, you ask them, why do you get into politics? You say, I want to make a difference.
Yeah. It certainly do.
And this idea of making a difference, I mean, it very quickly morphs into, sort of interference for interference's sake. And I think, we are at the end of this process. We're coming towards the end of this process. And this is all part of, the debasement of currency and all the rest of it. The currencies had to be debased back in 1971 in order for the Americans to continue to do this. And they've continued to do it. I mean, they've been very successful running their fiat currency for 54 years. It's been entirely based on false propaganda, which is something that the Americans are very good at. But now we have a president who I think is running into huge, great difficulties. I mean, as to, he's a property developer. He's a spendthrift. He likes low interest rates. He is a complete ignoramus when it comes to economics and certainly money. And this is behind his push to try and force the Fed to lower interest rates. He'd like to see interest rates at zero. I mean, he says he'd like to see it 3% lower. Now, I think I think that Jay Powell has been immensely patient in not getting drawn into, if you like, a sort of public spat with the president. He's just kept mum, and I think it's dead right to do so. If I was in Powell's shoes, I wouldn't want the legacy of someone like Burns, who was sort of forced by Nixon, if you like, to ease on monetary policy. And the result is that all sort of commentators that followed on that era saw him as a weak man. That's not a legacy that Powell would want. I wouldn't want it if I was in his shoes. So that, I think, is one thing. The other thing which is coming up, which actually I think, this hasn't been raised in the questions at all, but I think that this Epstein list thing is going to become an increasing political problem. And I would be very surprised if in the coming months there isn't an attempt to impeach President Trump. Now that I think could be a major, major political change. And I think, the grounds for impeachment would be that he lied to Congress.
Yes.
Not that he was, sort of, if you like, off on this island with lots of 12-year-old girls or whatever. I mean, all these stories is, we don't comment on at all. I mean, and I think that's not the point. The point is that he has been lying to Congress, or he's been suppressing the information for Congress. So, I think it's interesting because Trump hasn't. I don't know that he's actually sort of really denied anything. What he's done is he's tried to cover it up. So this is something which I think actually could undermine his presidency. Watch that space. Watch that very carefully, because that, I think, will have an impact. Not only on the American political scene, but also for the dollar itself, the dollar's credibility, and that could accelerate its decline. So that, I think, is something which is worth watching.
Powerful feedback there.
Yeah, and the truth always prevails, doesn't it, Dario?